In Russia, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov denounced once more that the United States leads the armed conflict in Ukraine against Moscow. In Italy, on the island of Lampedusa, residents protest the lack of assistance for more than 10,000 migrants. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso signed a military alliance to fight terrorism and organized crime in their territories. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The G77 and China summit closed in Havana, Cuba on Saturday with the approval of its final declaration. The 47-point document drafted by the Ministers of Foreign Affairs of the member states was submitted to the plenary session for approval on Saturday after 2 full days, where more than 90 heads of states and government took the floor to touch on the most important issues affecting the Global South. The declaration focused on the relevant role played by science, technology and innovation for the future of developing countries, the need of unity to achieve the group's strategic goals, the respect for the United Nations Charter and the international law, and the need to change the present unfair international economic order as a main obstacle for development of the Global South nations. The document also expressed the group's solidarity with the peoples of Libya and Morocco, victims of recent natural disasters, and reiterated its rejection against any measure of extraterritorial impact and all other forms of coercive economic measures, including unilateral sanctions against developing countries. The declaration also established September 16th as the Day of Science, Technology and Innovation in the South. In the closing remarks of the G77 and China summit, the Prime Minister of Cuba, Manuel Marrero Cruz, expressed the strength with which the representative of the southern nation spoke, denouncing the injustices of this world. Marrero also deeply appreciated the numerous expressions of rejection to the criminal blockade against Cuba and the solidarity and support to the Cuban people.
On behalf of the people and government of Cuba, I would like to deeply thank the numerous expressions of rejection to the criminal blockade imposed on our country and the solidarity and support to the Cuban people who today resists and heroically overcomes great difficulties and challenges. I invite you to work together to achieve our goals, and I thank you all for your enthusiastic response to our call to gather here in Havana.
The representative of Morocco, Abdallah Ben Malouk, welcomed the opportunity to be at this summit to highlight the commitment of the Kingdom of Morocco in favor of science and technology as indispensable tool to achieve technological sovereignty.
Also to take this opportunity to highlight the commitment of the Kingdom of Morocco under the clear vision of His Majesty in favor of science and technology. These three components are highly present in his new development model, celebrating numerical transformation as a true instrument for development. He considers that science and innovation are indispensable tools to attain food and technological sovereignty. And we are striving to strengthen political, legal, and procedural systems of the country. The goal is to strengthen competitiveness of the national economy and make it more attractive for foreign investors.
For his part, the Libyan ambassador to Brazil, Osama Ibrahim Ayar Sawan, reiterated the need for collaboration among countries of the South in order to face the world's challenges.
What we need to support and make the SDG successful by 2030 is to work and collaborate as South-South states, and so we can address all challenges and turn it into opportunities and replace dependency with a partnership. This is why we reiterate our complete commitment and support to G77 plus China to lift the coercive sanctions, the unilateral coercive sanctions that are imposed on the Republic of Cuba.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs and CARICOM Affairs of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and Mary Brown, expressed the hope that science, technology, and innovation will contribute to the advancement of sustainable development.
We retain the hope that science, technology, and innovation will contribute comprehensive solutions as our nations work together for a sustainable future. We applaud the tireless efforts of those pursuing scientific endeavors and are cognizant of the immense quantum of resources necessary to transform one stroke of genius into an application of ubiquitous use which benefits the whole of society. Through science, technology, and innovation, the good of one individual can redound exponentially to the benefit of all. It is incumbent upon us, therefore, to ensure that the positive developments of science and technology are enjoyed equitably by every individual on the face of the planet.
President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, held a meeting with his counterpart from Honduras, Xiomara Castro, aimed at strengthening bilateral ties. The meeting took place in Havana, the Cuban capital, within the framework of the G77 plus China summit. The topics discussed during the meeting were related to bilateral cooperation and future projects for the benefit of both countries, as well as agreements in strategic areas. In this sense, the governments of Venezuela and Honduras evaluated the development of cooperation programs in scientific and technological matters. The presidents of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, and Nicaragua, Daniel Ortega, also held a meeting in Havana, Cuba, in the framework of the G77 and China summit. During the meeting, the presidents reaffirmed their commitment to strengthen their bilateral relations and reiterated their determination to pursue the path of international cooperation. The meeting, which is part of the agenda of both leaders in the context of this international meeting, was attended by Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Gil. Both presidents also agreed on strategies to confront hegemonism and the pretensions of the United States to always be the guardian of the world. They recall as well the agreements reached throughout their historical relationship in favor of peoples. In this context, the Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro also held a meeting with the highest authority of the African Union, Azali Assoumani, in which they discussed the initiative to create cooperation mechanisms in favor of the peoples. The occasion was appropriate for President Maduro to reaffirm his affection for the African continent, with which he shares the same common destiny of fighting for the freedom and happiness of peoples. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Full stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from South. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov reiterated on Sunday that the United States is directing the armed conflict in Ukraine against Moscow. During an interview, the Russian Foreign Minister assured that Washington is waging a war against Russia, supplying arms, ammunition, and intelligence data to the Ukrainian forces. The Russian official said that the delivery of long-range missiles by the West to Kiev would not change the situation. Lavrov also denounced that Ukraine has been prepared for years to fight and inflict a strategic defeat on Russia, and that the United States seeks to influence public opinion with this conflict. The Russian government will respond to the increase of the military presence by the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in the Arctic. Russian Ambassador for Special Missions Nikolai Korshunov commented on the actions that Moscow will carry out within the framework of its foreign policy concept of development strategy for the Arctic Ocean. Korshunov said current political and military tensions are due to mistrust from NATO members and the position of the United States and its allies regarding the military operation in Ukraine. Moscow hopes to continue with dialogues aimed at increasing mutual trust in the area. In Russia, in the last 24 hours, multiple attacks by unmanned vehicles sent by the Ukrainian government have been recorded in the Donbas region. The Ukrainian army shelled 35 times in one day on the city of Donetsk. The Department for Control and Coordination of Issues related to War Crimes of Ukraine reported that one civilian was wounded in the neighboring city of Gorlovka after the constant attacks. In addition, in the Nikhodovsky district, the residential areas suffered damage to infrastructure. On the Italian island of Lampedusa, residents protest the lack of assistance to the more than 10,000 migrants who have arrived on the island in the last 3 days. The tense situation worsens with the arrival of another 1,000 people in the early hours of Sunday morning. The President of the European Commission, Ursula Von Der Layen, and the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, visit the area. The Premier attempts to encourage a greater aid from the bloc. Meanwhile, locals call for protests over the lack of resources and discrimination against migrants, and humanitarian organizations are demanding an urgent meeting with von der Leyen. According to the Red Cross, there is currently only capacity to accommodate 1,500 migrants. For the President of the European Commission, Ursula Von der Leyen, irregular migration is a European challenge and needs a European response. She made this statement after her visit with the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni to the Italian island of Lampedusa. They both noted the migratory crisis due to the increase in the flow of immigrants. For her part, Meloni stressed the need for a serious joint effort to deal with the illegal departures, since the consequences will overwhelm the border states and then all of the others. The Italian Prime Minister announced that next Monday's meeting of ministers she will present for approval a law regulating the stay on the island as well as the repatriation of irregular immigrants.
I confirm that in tomorrow's Council of Ministers we will bring a rule to extend to the maximum allowed by the European rules the detention for repatriation purposes of those who arrive irregularly in Italy. We will give a mandate to the Ministry of Defense to take immediate action to build the structures that are necessary.
We have an obligation as part of the international community. We have fulfilled it in the past and we will do so today and in the future. But we will decide who comes to the European Union and under what circumstances, and not the smugglers and traffickers. I want to conclude by saying I came here to say to all of you, again, migration is a European challenge and it needs a European answer and solution. It is concrete actions that will bring change on the ground. It is only through solidarity and unity that we can achieve this, and you can count on the European Union.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Found short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. The governments of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso signed a military alliance to fight terrorism and organized crime in the common space of the African region. The defensive military alliance was established in Bamako, the capital of Mali, by the heads of the military forces of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traore, Mali Colonel Assimi Goita, and Niger General Tiani. According to the official statement, the three governments pledged to fight terrorism in all its manifestations as well as organized crime in the common space of the alliance. All this as part of the joint action plan to combat the actions of terrorist groups. The Iranian government rejected U.S. accusations linking Tehran to the sale of drones to Russia for their use in the Ukrainian conflict. The permanent mission of Iran to the United Nations denounced the U.S. attempt to accuse Tehran of violating Security Council Resolution 2231. Iran accused Washington of misleading the international community and manipulating its decisions. It also singled out the United States for repeatedly violating the agreement. Iranian diplomats assured that despite Washington's accusations, their country has complied with its commitments, international law, and the United Nations Charter. The Iranian government also warned of retaliation measures over the seizure of about 1 million barrels of Iranian crude oil by the U.S. government. The Iranian Defense Ministry said Iran is fully capable of retaliating on a larger scale in due course if Washington goes ahead with the theft of the Iranian oil shipment. This comes after the U.S. Justice Department confirmed it had seized off the coast of Texas a Marshall Islands flag tanker named Suez Rajan, carrying 980,000 barrels of Iranian crude oil. Iranian officials stated that the U.S. actions were unacceptable, stressing that Tehran hopes they will not be repeated. In Bangladesh, authorities report an increase in dengue cases. So far this year, over 100 people have died because of the virus. Health experts in the country are worried about the increase in number of cases compared to the previous year. Top health officials said there have been more than 164,500 cases diagnosed, and about 153,400 people are reported to have recovered from the disease. Authorities say the country's health system remains on alert due to an expected increase in the number of cases. And in Syria, at least 5 army officers have been killed in clashes with terrorists in the northeastern coastal province of Latakia. According to local media, the clashes followed an attack by suicide bombers from the Board for the Liberation of the Levant, formerly known as Al-Nusra Front, which is listed as an international terrorist organization. In retaliation, the army bombed terrorist headquarters near the town of Al-Fatira in the Al-Sawiya Plateau in the south of the neighboring northern province of Idlib with aircraft and heavy missiles. The raids killed a number of irregular fighters and destroyed weapons and ammunition depots. Like this, we have come to the end of this news briefing. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.